Hello and welcome to Open All Hours, the QPR podcast. I'm David Fraser. There are four of us around the table this week to discuss a whole manner of QPR-related subjects. It's been absolutely ages, or seems ages, since we've done a podcast. It's actually 2 weeks, but so much has happened in that time. So making his first appearance on the QPR podcast, I better not get this wrong, from Get West London.
Correct.
Not location.
Not location.
Is
easily confused.
Phil Spencer.
Hello.
QPR, you do the QPR beats? Is that fair to say?
QPR reporter, yeah. So covering QPR all day, every day, Monday to Friday.
Sounds like a good job.
5, yeah.
And my partner in crime? I don't know.
I
Colleague, esteemed fellow podcaster, Paul Finney.
just acquaintance is fine.
I don't think I've seen you for a month.
You haven't, and I'm
It's very
sorry
good to see you.
I've been sitting in your seat, David, and I apologise for any insults that you may be getting because of my poor hosting. But it's great to have you back, great to see you, and a love in the beard.
I thank you. I particularly enjoyed the Grenfell special. I thought it was a great pod.
Yeah, it's hard to do that.
Appropriate, and I'm sure it raised a lot of money. I thought it was really, really good. If anyone
Yeah.
hasn't listened to that, even if you listen to it retrospectively, you kind of get a real sense of how important the whole fundraiser was to the club, and I'm sure it'll be something that we come back to later in the podcast. But Mendes is waiting on the end there, and we haven't even said hello to him yet.
Hello. Yeah.
Hello, Chris.
I think your hosting skills are fine, Finney. You know, you're a good caretaker, just like Mick Harford, QPR's Mick Harford. Very good.
Well, wasn't Ainsworth caretaker more?
Yeah, if you want to be Ainsworth, that's fine as well. Yeah, he's a bit
Can
more
you
rock and
imagine,
roll.
like, oh no, come on.
Got a bit more hair than you, but it's fine.
Jesus, that was personal. Not my fault it's falling out.
Talking of hair,
Oh,
I mean, we
Christ.
may as well just do this straight away before I do any of the introductions.
Let's just get this loaded
What's,
in messy post.
as a man of a certain
Boldness?
thatch, yeah, what, I probably shouldn't say this. What's your view on Matt Smith?
You are?
Well, Matt Smith had a bald patch last season.
Uh-huh.
He now doesn't have a bald patch this season.
Ah, Miracle Grow.
Has no one noticed this?
Uh,
He's done a bit of the old Michael Vaughan,
Yeah,
a bit of the old
been in
Advanced
touch with
Hair
Rooney.
Studio.
See, I don't get that because
You, as a man who hasn't done that,
right.
what's your thoughts on that?
I don't give a shit. I was ugly before when I had hair. I'm ugly now and I haven't got hair, so what difference is... But the best one I've ever seen was someone put a tattoo of themselves, or a picture of themselves. They had a bald patch and someone had a tattoo of a guy with a lawnmower going around their head.
Yeah.
And I thought that was particularly good. Who cares? You're going bald, you're going bald. I mean, I'm old and fat. That's even more of a worry.
There's more than one thing that's a worry in your case, Paul. Anyway,
Harsh.
right. Always harsh. Always harsh. First of all, we have an episode sponsor today. We have somebody that has taken the time to sponsor our episode and help us with the running costs of the podcast.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding you. If anybody else wishes to do that, you
Is
can
it
go
another
to
florist again?
qprpod.co.uk. It's not another florist. It's a cake maker.
Ooh,
Let me tell you a story. Our sponsor today is the English Cake Lady, and
Right.
ours wife living and working in Amsterdam, baking cakes the way they should be.
What kind of...
That was my next
Read into
question.
that what you will.
Are they the way cakes should be, or are they the way cakes should be in Amsterdam? We don't know. Everything is made fresh to order. There was a Man City shirt cake, but it was only once, and we've never made or ever will make a Chelsea shirt cake.
I'm pleased to know, and also I'd be good to link up with them for business. We should talk to them and help them because QPR Kicks and Mendes is trying to get in. Sorry.
I was just saying, I think we've missed a trick there. Like, while sponsoring our podcast, we could have gone over to sample some of the cakes.
We could have
Look,
done.
listen, if anyone wants to take this podcast anywhere in the world and help us with a Premier Inn nearby, more than happy to go there and talk to fans all over the world.
I'm sure her website is EnglishCakeLady.com.
As long as they sell cider.
Or Punt NL, as they say in Amsterdam, apparently, or search English Cake Lady on Facebook. But I have actually witnessed someone eating a cake in Amsterdam before, and it really didn't end well. It was a really long night after that, and there was serious repercussions. So I'm hoping her cakes wouldn't have that effect.
But thank you for sponsoring our podcast. You've really put us in the mix.
Yeah. And please don't sue us.
Very good, very good.
You're welcome.
She goes, yeah. Okay, that was
That
going
was
to
a
be a
crap
bad
joke.
pun that I stopped. So thank you to English Cake Lady. That's EnglishCakeLady.com, and the beers are courtesy of Darren Fisk.
Okay.
So thank you very much, Darren.
Thank you, Darren.
All
That
that
rings a bell
remains,
for some
all that
reason.
remains for me to say in terms of the announcements is, believe it or not, we do have new people listening to us every now and again. The podcast that we did the other week, we had all of a sudden loads of new listeners. Who did we interview? I can't even remember who it was.
I can tell you it was Lawful Woods podcast, Paul, for the Appreciation Society.
No, it wasn't. But the other week, we had loads and loads of new messages saying, "I've never listened to the podcast before. I've just found it." So if this
Clint
is
Hill?
the first time, Clint Hill, the first time,
prob-
it was
yeah.
the first time with Clint Hill.
Probably because we're doing quite well on the table. The Glory Hunting podcast.
Oh yeah. So if you are new to us, follow us on Twitter.
Sean Walsh.
Follow us on Twitter at QPR Pod, or you can find us on Facebook, and you can listen to all our old episodes on qprpod.co.uk.
Do you know what was really scary, Dave? When Sean Walsh was on the podcast the other week, he looked me in the eye and said, "I listened to you naked in the bath." That's where he listens to the podcast. No, it's very off-putting.
There's also, I've never watched it, but there's a fella from Peaky Blinders who is listening to this because he listens to it every week.
He's
so
coming on soon.
He better. He better. We want him on.
Is it-
we want him on. He
Is a
played in the
QPR
game the
fan,
other
or
week.
did you
Yeah, he played the Grenfell game. Paul.
Yeah, he listens to us. He engages, as they say.
We should
it's good.
definitely
We
get
want him on. We're trying to
Why
sort
don't we
it out.
do an actor special one day? Because we've got enough of them now, haven't we? There's Henry.
Yeah, there's Henry
Paul.
Lloyd Hughes,
There's,
Donovan from The Inbetweeners. That is, there's this fella from Peaky Blinders, Paul.
Yep.
There must be more. There will be more.
Well, you're always acting up. Haha,
Very
terrible
good.
pun.
Should we talk about the game?
Yeah, it was
Should we
pretty-
talk about Ipswich? 2-1 victory, lest we forget. We won't be forgetting that in a hurry, was sort of the words that I was trying to find. Phil, as the man in the press box, what's your verdict on Saturday?
It was a good performance from start to finish, really, wasn't it? It was, if you're talking about the first half, I think QPR arguably could have got 2 or 3 within the first half. There was a slight feeling as you were getting near to the half-time whistle, where you were thinking, you can just see it where you can see Ipswich going up the other end of the pitch, getting a goal, and then the game turns on its head. But no, I think getting the goal just before half-time, and then obviously getting the second just after half-time just kind of killed the game dead somewhat, and then it was QPR's to lose. They kept control in the second half. They kept possession well. A little bit of a blip as it got towards the end of the game with a little bit of a spell of pressure from Ipswich. But all in all, good performance against a good team.
And there was quite a few people to single out for performances, really. I mean, it was almost an all-round performance. It wasn't really a bad one. What was the kind of buzz in the press box about who were the best performers on Saturday?
Yeah, well, I think everyone's been talking about Josh Scowen. Everyone's been talking about Massimo Luongo. Everyone's been talking about Luke Freeman, the trio in midfield who've just been taking games by the scruff of the neck so far this season. But for me, it was the likes of Jamie Mackie and Connor Washington up front who really put in a shift in that game. And I think sometimes those two in particular, they get a little bit of stick unnecessarily. People that they might not be the most prolific strikers in the league, but what they do is by putting pressure on the defence, to create space, to put them under pressure, and it allows QPR to win the ball back quicker. So-
What did you think when you saw the team on Saturday, Paul, and you saw that selection? I mean, first of all, that Farah was dropped from the previous week.
That was a shocking decision. I mean, Birch and Ian should be hung out to dry on that one. That was a terrible. He showed pace, enthusiasm, and he did say it was a marathon more than a sprint. To be fair to him, so probably he's waiting in the wings.
Forget Farah. Sinclair scored 2.
Exactly. I'm going to do no more jokes. I think Lawful Woods have a point. They are actually shite.
Oh, Paul.
We can't afford-
Move on. Right,
Move on.
let's talk
No.
about Saturday.
Saturday, I'll tell you why it was a good performance. I seen that team and I was worried because I wasn't really sure about the formation. I wasn't really sure how we would cope with their pace because they played their forwards on the wing and they cut in, and I was a bit worried about that. But to be fair to Ian, bringing Batiste in and playing
A good game, didn't
and playing Robinson as a left-handed side.
But was that out of necessity or choice, that back three?
Well, listen, if it had been absolutely terrible, everyone would say he'd lost his marbles and that was it. But it's genius when it works, isn't it? It's football. It's just on the day, it worked brilliantly. But it works so well. You hit it on the nail on the head there because you've got Mackie and Washington who aren't. Washington certainly isn't scoring the goals, but the work they're putting in and the pressure they're putting on the defence on the midfield are picking up now and they're moving it. And Luongo looks a completely different player now that he's able to go forward and control the game so much better. And Scowen and Freeman, I mean, one thing we've got to give praise to, I mean, I've slaughtered Les in the past, not slaughtered him, I've been critical of our transfer policy. This season, I take my hat off to him. Whatever he's done, however he's done it, amazing. Every single player we've brought in seems to want to play for the shirt again. It was never, ever, ever about the money at QPR. It should never have been about that. We lost our way a bit. It's always about the pride. And that is being slowly putting back in. And I'm happy to eat my words every time I'm proved wrong. And I'm very happy to be proved wrong.
I just hope that midfield trio, none of them get injured during the season, because I think they're so important to keep them together. I remember seeing the pre-season game against Bournemouth, and they were like the only positive thing to take from that game.
You say that, but then you've got Manning and stuff that can come in. I mean, there's options there. You know, there's a young lad we've got from Exeter. There's a young lad from Northern Ireland, and stuff that we've got options there. I'm
ding. That didn't take you long to mention him. Yeah, Cameron.
I haven't been on since the whole game, and one of the things that stood out for me about QPR this season, I couldn't honestly remember the last time we went down in a game and then went on to win it, and that happened in the whole game. And when we went 1-0 down, I just thought, all right, here we go again.
Did we go down against Forest last season?
Did Luongo? I don't know. Did Luongo travel this week?
Yeah, madly.
Where did he go?
Was he playing in Oz? I think it was, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Australia. Did his international games.
Blimey.
Obviously stuck on an airplane.
There's a stat that was going around on Twitter. Jack Supple, who works for Opta, QPR fan, posted that no player in the Championship has
Travelled further than he has.
done more successful tackles in the last 2 seasons than Luongo.
Oh, right.
That's an interesting stat.
I think you'd probably, I mean, if we were talking about travelling on the international break, you'd probably struggle to find a player who travels more during the season than him as well.
Do you know what I find really interesting about Saturday is just that defence when suddenly someone like Batiste comes in and starts commanding himself, and Anua looked a much different player, more subtle in what he was doing. He wasn't doing the kamikaze back passes. But also, Bidwell came into the game more as well. And it's really interesting because obviously him and Robinson linked up really well and had a really good understanding. And Mackie just terrorised their centre half. I mean, he was properly winding him up. I mean, that was brilliant to see. You could see McCarthy losing the plot because he knew exactly what Mackie was doing. And the guy kept falling for it time after time. And everyone slags off Mackie, but I love Mackie. I think he's like me. If I'd have been a footballer, I'd have been exactly the same. You know, in that kind of... Everyone says
he's awkward. Yeah, go on.
Look the same without a top on.
Go on.
No,
finish the analogy.
No, but the thing is, everyone's saying he hasn't got this, he hasn't got that. But what he has got is so much passion that who cares? He will cause havoc. I mean, the season we went up, he was major influential on that side with Adele, winning the ball for Adele, doing all the donkey work. He doesn't get the credit he deserves, in my opinion.
Do you know what? I think I'll give you that comparison. I'm not sure Jamie Mackie would be that happy to be compared to you, but I'll give you that.
Well, a squinty fat bloke from Belfast.
I remember when Sean Derry was on the podcast, he said he was taking the mick out of Mackie, going around to his house, and in his bathroom he had like a painting of himself in there. Have you got one of those in your bathroom?
No, I've got a picture of Martin O'Neill.
Oh,
it's called a mirror. Boom. Phil,
Thank you,
we're
Brad
about to, we're very lucky. We're about to speak to Luke Freeman. Really excited to hear from him. What is, as a, I don't think we make any secret of it. You're not a QPR fan, but you've watched most of the games, if not all of them, this season.
Who's your team then?
What?
Middlesbrough. It's my team.
Interesting. Who we're playing Saturday? So we'll
talk about that.
We'll talk about that a little bit later. What's your take on Luke Freeman and what he's brought to QPR the last few months?
I think he's just a quality player, isn't he? He's the kind of player who a lot of teams are looking out for. That kind of player, just someone who he might not be playing particularly well. I mean, on Saturday, I didn't think he had the best first half. He was misplacing passes, he wasn't able to control the ball particularly well. But he was still eager to get on the ball and try and make something happen. And it was almost when his goal went in just after half time, it just kind of like raised his confidence, and then he was back to his normal self again, trying to asking for the ball at every opportunity, pinging the ball around, and he's more than happy to get on the ball and drive forward as well. So you need that kind of fearlessness in the team.
If you do a Cruyff turn and end up with a goal at the end of it, I mean that is perfect, isn't it? You would just love to be able to do that in a game. Anyway.
Yeah, it is rare. What you're saying is right. Players that kind of almost demand the ball. Every team needs one who's actually good as well. It was like Taarabt when we had him. I'm not trying to compare them. They are different players, but it's that kind of player, that you expect something to happen when he's on the pitch.
And I was looking at his stats today. He's so influential. He he either gets a goal or an assist every couple of games, like every 2.5 games, something like that.
You wonder why someone, I mean, I'm pleased it didn't, but someone else didn't pick it up. Also,
Well, the problem
Bristol
was
City are mad.
his contract was winding down, and there was 6 months left. So a lot of the clubs that were going to go in for him were waiting for that to happen, and that's what Holloway said. That's why QPR had to move quickly.
But if you think about it, him, Baptiste, and Scarron for 300,000. When you think
Good
of the
business, isn't it?
absolute money we wasted on horrible players,
Yeah.
and that's the proper QPR philosophy.
Let's talk to him now then. Hopefully, by the magic of Finney's phone on the end of the line,
Great.
we have
Now
Luke.
everyone's going to try and pinch my phone at football games to get numbers. Thank you for that. But
We have-
Mendes' phone.
Can we speak to Luke?
I haven't
Can we
got any
speak to
interesting
him?
numbers on
Go
there.
on then.
You done?
I'm done.
Okay. Hi, Luke. You there?
Oh, hello.
How's it going, Luke?
Not too bad.
What do you think about how was Saturday?
Oh, it's brilliant. I wish I could play like Paul Finney. Yeah, he's great, apparently. He's a bit like Jimmy Mackey, apparently.
You went, okay, so anyone who was, literally 10 seconds ago in the recording, we said that we were speaking to Luke Freeman. It turns out we're not speaking to Luke Freeman because he didn't pick up his phone, which
I could have flagged that, you know.
happens.
Really convincing.
It
Was it
it
bad,
was
was it?
convincing,
Where's he from?
especially when you switched in the course of one sentence from him being from Scotland to India to Manchester. That was
he's
my
well
favourite bit.
travelled.
It's very well
You
travelled.
know, sometimes, David, you can be quite hurtful.
What do you think his voice is like? Because I assumed it was David Beckham. Like, you know, yeah, had a great time, had a great game Saturday.
Where's he from?
Where is he from?
I don't know. I've no
Well, he
idea.
played for
Stevenage?
Gillingham.
Oh, he's going to have that.
He's from London, apparently.
So he's probably going to sound like you.
He's going to sound like me.
That kind of like posh boy wannabe. That's dumped him.
Okay. Yes, so we don't have an interview with Luke Freeman because he hasn't picked up his
We
phone.
will try again in 5 minutes.
We will try again in 5 minutes, but I think this has happened once in our last 7 years that
Who was
the
that?
person just hasn't picked up. I can't remember who it was. I've got a feeling it was Neil Warnock. I've got a feeling it was a coach, but who knows?
Do you reckon I fooled anyone?
Nevertheless, he did text you
Lots of
back.
people.
He did text you back earlier, right, saying I'm good to go. So obviously he's just been otherwise indisposed. But let's move on because there's a lot to talk about. So apologies for us teasing you with Luke Freeman, but it looks like it's not to be unless we can squeeze him in before the end of the show. So I have a long list of stuff
Go
that
on.
we haven't talked about for 2 weeks. So let's talk about feel-good factor. There's not only do we appear to be getting it right on the pitch, there's almost this unfamiliar, uneasy feeling that they're getting it right off the pitch. Now, we have been extremely critical over the years of the club and everything they've done, and in many cases, rightly so. But everything, there is just, I was saying to Phil before, there's just there's something in the water. No, good things are happening.
But I think that's when the club perhaps used to view what we said as being critical. When we weren't being critical, we were being, this is
A
QPR.
critical friend, as
We
they
were
might say.
nudging them a bit. You know, not that we're taking credit for anything at all, but if we are to take credit
Well,
for
we
anything,
take credit for everything.
Well,
We let's face it, we think we're responsible for Clint Hill coming back to the club, right? Which
Well,
we'll
I
come
would
on
like to think so, but then again, if you didn't listen to that interview and get the passion that man had for the club, you'd be mad not to bring him back.
But then again, maybe it was the fact that he spent 5-6 years at the club and knows lots of people and he's a free agent. That also may have something to do
And
with
he's
it.
really intelligent, good footballer, and knows what he's talking about. Yeah, down to us. But it's good because we never have. Yeah, we were critical because we could see the club.
That's rain, by the way. We can't do anything about it.
The club was losing its way in some
Neil, our
respects.
engineer's losing it because you're hearing rain, but we can't do anything about
Exactly.
it. We're in a room with windows and it's raining on them. Carry on.
Annie Lennox will appear from somewhere in a minute.
Yeah.
And everything is getting right, and we weren't that critical. All we were trying to say is we think our club should be doing this, our club should be doing that, and they're doing it. And they're doing it well as well. They're not just doing it, they're doing it exceedingly well in everything they're doing. And I'm really proud of the fact that Grenfell, the old players, the Forever Hours, everything, the Stamboul's Day, everything's coming together, and we're doing it without fuss. And that's the best way of doing it. You do it properly, you do it well, and you give the fans pride. And that's all you can ask for. And that leads me on to my next thing, which is be very brief on this. We asked for the team to start showing effort. We asked for commitment. We asked to win games and home games. Get back the Rangers, everyone. If you're listening to this, you haven't been this season, get back the Rangers. and get to a game
He's
because
just looked at me for some reason.
and get
Whenever I'm not working, I have been there.
no, but you know it's not his fault. But you know what I mean. It's like we've asked for this for years. Let's fill the ground Saturday. Wee bit of Elsley, too empty for Marlock, and let's get that ground buzzing again. Let's get everyone down there, and maybe the club could do a thing with season tickets where they say, you know what, come back and we'll give you the same rate as what you would have had if you renewed. Let's fill the ground. We need to fill Loftus Road again. We need to get that place buzzing.
Phil, you're new to the club.
Yes.
What would you say as an outsider coming in? You know, what's your view of the club in comparison to, I don't know, your experience versus other clubs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we're coming in. I started doing this role at in the middle of May, so it was fresh off the back of last season, which obviously from a QPR point of view didn't end too well. It was it 6 games lost in a row, and obviously my job was all about almost like getting on social media, finding out what the fans are thinking at the moment, and let's just say it was pretty negative when I took over.
Yeah.
It was
more negative in your view than compared to other clubs.
I think so, yeah. When I took over, it was. I mean, I don't think social media is a particularly fair representation of the fan base, because you do get the fanatics on social media. But it was extremely negative when I first came in, and but it's amazing how quickly that turns with a couple of good results. Obviously, start of the season, got the wins against Reading. Got the win in the cup against Northampton as well, and it's just amazing how quickly it turns, and all of a sudden that negativity just disappears. But at the same time, it does come back equally as quickly.
I think, to be fair, sorry, Chris.
No, you go for it.
I don't think sorry, Chris. I don't think it's negativity as such. I think a lot of people had a problem with the way the club was going, the wages we were playing, the way the players were behaving who were playing for us. It wasn't just the barriers that came out in match days that people weren't used to section these players off. And there was a kind of a thing, and we spent £300 million and we have no legacy. You know, at the end of the day, we spent a lot of money. We haven't got a training ground of our own. The ground hasn't been updated that much. So people are kind of thinking, we've got all this money, and you just chucked at all these players that have come in, try to change the culture of the club, play with the big boys, and it went horribly wrong. We've gone back to basics. It's gone round. Because that's a football club we've always identified with and always will identify with, because it's better to be the little fella kicking the big guys in the arse than trying to compete and bankrupting yourself and having people who don't care about your club playing for you.
Chris?
Last season, because it was so up and down and then up and then down again, when Holloway took over, I think most fans spent the entire part of that season after Holloway took over trying to work out whether it was the right decision for the board to get rid of Hasselbank and bring Holloway on board. And I think now, for the first time, people are starting to get it, you know, they agree that it was the right call.
I think the thing is, as well, people analyse things, and we all do it. Let's face it, football's a torturous mistress, because, you know, if we'd have lost to Forest, we'd have got relegated.
Yeah.
So then everyone, we sit in this podcast now saying, what the hell are we going to do? The owners probably would have sold and gone. It would have been a completely restructured club, back to the days of when Holloway first joined, which would have been really weird. And histories never could repeat themselves. So, won that Forest game, stayed up, and now look what's happened. Win them home games.
I've got to admit, at the start of the season, looking at our squad that we have now, I didn't expect us to be doing as well as we are now. I thought we'd be doing well to be like staying above the relegation zone, maybe mid-table. But
Have you revised your expectations?
Slightly, not so much. I still wouldn't be surprised if we end up, where are we now, 7th or 8th? If I think we do amazingly well to be around there at the end of the season.
But you probably, I can't remember what you did say in the first podcast of the season.
Yeah.
But you probably would have said, somewhere between 10th and 13th would sort of be about par.
Yeah.
And now, what do you think? A little sneaky?
Yeah, I was slightly more pessimistic than that. I thought, we'd struggle. But
So I'm asking you now, have you revised your
slightly,
expectations?
I think, possibly a little bit. Looking at the way our team's gelling, especially in midfield and up front.
But it's difficult. Phil, you've watched football all over the place. You know the crack. If you have a winning team that's playing football the way you want, players get injured less. Struggling teams, players get injured, feel their groin, feel their hamstring, going, I don't really feel like it. The trick is now to keep going. The season we got promotion, and hardly anyone got injured because everyone wanted to play every week. Suddenly everyone's fitter, they're sharper, and also they're looking over the shoulder because there are players that can come in now. I mean, Manning can't get a game. He's decent enough. What I did notice on Saturday is what's happened to Silla and Yanni.
in all honesty,
We're looking at you.
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, both of them were both away on international duty, so
right,
that could be part of it. I mean, from my personal opinion, it's not something that I've heard from the club directly, but do those players fit into what Ian Holloway is trying to do with the high pressing and the energetic play? That's just my personal opinion. Both of those players have got qualities of their own. But do they fit in with what they're trying to do? Is Silla the kind of player similar to Mackie or Washington, who is going to be closing down defenders constantly? I'm throwing that question over to you. Do you think he would be? Or
I don't know. I think with Silla is... Maybe I'm the only one that thinks. I don't know what you think, Chris. But I think there's a good player in him. It's just not coming out. Whether he hasn't settled in London.
I think his main issue is, and if you read Clive's Whittingham's interview he did with Ian Holloway,
Which is excellent.
which is great, yeah. And Holloway touched on that, and you could tell the way he's dealt with him in the media and like on touchline before that. And you can even see it when you watch Silla play, that he just has a bit of an attitude problem, I think. His body language isn't right, and that kind of rubs off on other players, so it needs to be right. I think that's his biggest problem. He is talented, but it's just where he puts in the effort.
There's been glimpses of talent. There is glimpses of talent, but also is that kind of laziness as well that they've both got. But it's a shame, really, because I'd like them both to work, to be honest with you, because we need stuff like that there. But then we've gone back to basics. I mean, we've got the young lad from Northern Ireland, Smith, who everyone back home was raving about.
Go on. So what's the insight on this fella?
Well, considering I support their deadliest rivals,
Yeah.
I don't even really want to say their name, but
Sorry, we're laughing. I feel like I need to acknowledge the rain again.
No
We're in a
worries.
different room. We're in a loft room tonight, which is why you can hear that rain. But
which is
carry
handy
on.
for the podcast being in the loft again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Takes me back.
Yes.
Takes me back.
We are recording in the loft.
I phoned up all my Glentoran mates, who are also QPR fans, asking them about Smith. And one is Johnny McKay, who's listening to the podcast, has mates at Linfield. God has said them. God forgive me. And yeah, loads of clubs were after him. Absolutely bundle of energy. Good wee player. Maybe a wee bit slight. We'll need to work on things. But like I said before, the biggest problem with Irish kids is homesickness. I mean, loads of them come over and don't say it. But he could be an absolute bargain and a steal like everyone else. But he is potentially a great player.
But I don't think there's an expectation he's going to feature very much this season.
No, it could be a couple of seasons, but he's. Do you know what? I really regret having that curry now.
I will listen again tomorrow to hear if that came through. If it didn't, that was the most enormous thunder just came through.
I'm expecting Peter Cushins to walk in at any minute, like, do you know what I mean? But but isn't it good to see us doing that again, though, Dave? Going back to
Yes.
the smaller leagues, so-called smaller leagues. I wouldn't patronise them that much, and getting these gems. People who want to come to the club that are hungry, who want to develop, that we can sell on.
Getting that
and
kind of
improve the
player
club.
excites me a lot more than getting a journeyman Premier League player who might do okay for a season or two. And like looking at
Did they?
the thing that I liked most was I can't remember whether it was on Twitter or on Facebook now, and I just saw someone comment who was obviously a fan from Northern Ireland and said, we've seen some good players leave over the years, but he's the best out of all of them. Yeah.
Do you know the funniest thing about it is, for some reason, I got blocked on Twitter by Linfield. I can't think why or what I said, but Linfield Football Club have blocked me. My uncle will be so proud of
All
me.
of a sudden, I've become a Linfield fan. Right,
Well,
the other signings.
That sums you up, you gobshite. What?
The other signings.
Wheeler apparently is excellent, by the way. People
Wheeler?
are absolutely raving to him.
Yeah,
Wheeler,
He played
it-
at Poole Town.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if at the same time as Charlie Austin.
Okay.
But I spoke to someone who's played with him, and he was like, just great, amazing player.
And apparently very intellectual as well. So him and
Even
Smith
better.
could have really deep conversations.
And a
about
Noah.
very intellectual, and
I don't know, yeah.
we didn't see much of him on Saturday. We saw that shot, which, I don't know, showed confidence, whatever, being comfortable. He wore black boots, which I really liked.
Robinson as well wears black boots. Yeah,
I really like that.
I'd make
So
all
that
players wear
means
black boots.
That tells me he's not a knob if he's wearing black boots, which is about, that's about as good as we can get at this point.
Okay.
What else do we know? So Bright Osei Samuel, have I done that right?
yeah.
What can anyone tell us about him? Quick, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know a great deal about him, but I do know that he's quite quick. He's a tricky kind of player.
What Radio 5 and TalkSport pundits say when they don't know, they're being asked on a subject they don't know about, is they say, I haven't seen a great deal of them so far this season. So you haven't seen a great deal.
I haven't
of
seen
him.
a great deal. That means
Yeah.
I haven't seen him this season.
Yeah.
No, he's meant to be a tricky kind of player. I do know someone who is a Blackpool fan, and they said that he definitely has excellent potential. His end product is something which potentially could be worked on over the course of this season. But I mean, to be honest, he's stepping up into the Championship. He'll be playing around better players than what he was at Blackpool. So fingers crossed he can fulfil some of that potential when he obviously joins up.
Holloway obviously knows Blackpool quite well, so you trust his judgment, knowing
Yes.
the people who work there, and he probably consulted Trevor Sinclair, who knows the club quite well as well, plays in the same position, or used to play in the same position as him. He looks, I've never seen him play live, but I've only seen highlights. On his Instagram account, he put a highlights reel, and they always like...
He's not going to put a highlight.
They're slightly
playing
misleading,
badly,
yeah. There's best bits, but, comments underneath from
Yeah.
Blackpool fans, all like, great season for us, blah, blah, blah.
So also, he had a go at the Oyston family as well when he left. That's always a good thing.
He did have a go at them.
Yeah, big
Okay.
time.
What-
He wasn't
Did he
too impressed
really?
how they handled the transfer.
What I like about all these players we've signed, not just this window, but the last window, and even going back to Smithies and Ingram, who I know has gone out on loan, but these players have played games.
Yeah.
Asai Samuel, I think, has played 80 games or something like that. Luke Freeman had played 150-odd games. Alex Smithies had played a lot of games. Ingram had played a lot of games. David Wheeler's played a lot of games. They're not coming here either fat and bloated from a much bigger club, taking a step down, or kind of green and like completely inexperienced. They've got the right level of experience to now step up. It's good business, I think.
But when you want to sign someone like Nandy Simpson from Brentford back in the day who had never heard
This
of...
is what it feels like.
and
It feels like the
Sinclair.
Sintons, the Bardsleys,
The Sinclairs.
Morris Doyle.
Yeah, okay.
Those sort of players. You know what
Morris
I mean.
Doyle. Interesting one, though.
Carry on. Probably not the right
Tony Witter.
reference. Yeah, carry on. Go
Yeah,
on.
anyway. No, it's I'm really pleased because it makes everyone feel good. Seeing the likes of young Manning coming through was a start of it and everything else. Seeing Matty come back and prove a lot of critics wrong. That's the way it should be. We shouldn't be signing these big name players because they're coming to Loftus Road and they'll see that as a way down. We need these young lads like the Bardsleys, like the Sintons to come in and see it as a step up. You're never going to get anywhere with has-beens. It never works. And, this if we do somehow manage, and there's no reason why we can't push for a playoff place, that would be the biggest achievement this club's achieved in a long, long time with this squad. And if that happens, I will run around Shepherd's Bush Band, everyone drinks.
Sounds like a deal.
I tell you.
Loftus Road 100 is next on my list. 100 years of that stadium, and don't it look it?
Oh, that's harsh.
It was fitting that Mackie scored on his 100th appearance as well for QPR.
It was his 100th start, wasn't it? It was
100th
sort of
start.
a bit of a fudge how
Yeah.
they made it. But still, we'll take it.
Take it, yeah.
I thought it was good Saturday. It was kind of an appropriate response to a good occasion. The club made a big deal of it. And, sorry, go on, Paul.
That's kind of weird because you kind of think years ago, people, the board probably didn't want us to be here. And we are here and we're staying here for a long time yet because that's just a mess what's going on behind the scenes. I presume we don't know what's going to happen because it could be 10 years, it could be 5 years, it could be 50 years before we move. But I love Loftus Road. I mean, nighttime games is nothing like it. When you live afar and you come to the ground like I did as a kid, it's the best place in the world because you've managed it in your head, you've thought about it, you've seen it on the telly. You're standing there, and it's an awesome place to watch football. It's just, can I really say awesome? Jesus Christ, I'm listening to my daughter too much. At the end of the day, it is the perfect football stadium when it's rocking. Luke Freeman wants to talk to us. Should we ring him?
Luke Freeman's there, is he?
Yeah.
Well, in which case, we will go second time lucky, maybe, to Luke Freeman.
Hello, David. No.
Luke, we got there in the end. Good to speak to you. Thanks for giving up your time. We've just been talking about Saturday and a great all-round performance. There must be a pretty decent buzz around the squad after that.
Definitely. It's one of them ones, really. It's something that we've been working on really right from the start of the season. So it's something that we feel like we deserve. So it's good to see the hard work kind of paying off, for the whole team.
And there's been a lot of chat about the sort of midfield trio of you, Massimo and Josh Scowen. It feels like the three of you have really, really gelled.
Yeah, no, there's a real flow of fluidity throughout us three. You know, it's kind of not something you always get with players. You know, but we kind of just seem to click. You know, and it works really well. We've kind of got a thing where it kind of doesn't matter where we are. If I just kind of in that three, you can kind of be anywhere in that three. Whether you're kind of central, left, or right, and it's just kind of go off of that. You know, so no, it's something that we've clicked and we've said that. You know. It's working for us, but no, it's a pleasure to work with him. So yeah, definitely.
And what position do you prefer to play in, Luke? Where would be your ideal?
Well, where I'm playing, to be honest with you, I mean, like I said, the fluidity we've got in that three, it's more like it doesn't really matter where you are in that three, whether in the central part or the left or the right, as long as you've got the three there, whoever that is. That's the most important thing, which is why I think it works so well, because you're not restricted to a specific position. You kind of you play where you feel like you need to go at times, you know. And then I'm lucky enough where it's me, or sometimes the other way around, where people just Mass or Josh just kind of cover for you, or vice versa. If it's Mass that goes, then it's me and Josh to kind of cover for him, you know. So that's why I think it's working so well, because we've always got not so much a free role, but you kind of. You can go where you feel like you need to, so you're playing kind of quite freely to a certain degree.
Luke, what was the big pull to QPR when you knew that QPR was interested in you?
I think it was the all-round package for me. You know, obviously I'm a London boy, so if I had a chance to get home and it was right for me, obviously I was eager to get home. You know, so I think it's probably being back home in London. It's the club itself as well. You know, it's a massive club. You can't forget. Not too long ago, it was in the Premier League. You know, so it was just the all-round package. You know, being back home with friends and family, the club itself, how big it is, and where I feel like it could go. You know, and obviously where the gaffer's told me he feels the team can go. You know. So yeah, it was just an all-round package for me that it was just very sensitive for me, you know. And I just couldn't wait to kind of get signed and start my career down there.
Luke, you spent quite a few years at Arsenal under Arsene Wenger. What was he like as a manager, and how does his style as a manager and coach compare to Ian Holloway?
With Arsenal, he was very. He never used to say too much. He was more just kind of watch, you know, and say a few points that he felt like he needed to say. Whereas I think with the gaffer here, he's a lot more hands-on. You know, he likes to kind of coach the training sessions. He likes to kind of talk to us about the game, what we're doing well, what we're not doing well, where we can improve, and where it's a lot more hands-on, which I think. There's no right or wrong way. It's just a preference of managers, you know. It's you know, that's really how it is. So there's quite a lot of difference. Whereas obviously with Arsenal, he just used to sit back and observe and kind of have Pat Rice. It was really kind of taking it and a few others, you know. Yeah.
No worries. And Luke, so Loftus Road seems to be a much more positive place this season than what it was last year. So from your point of view, what's changed behind the scenes to make it that way?
To be honest with you, not that much. I mean, there were times last year when we kind of went on that bad run. We were doing a lot of good things right. It just didn't seem to kind of work for us. Sometimes it happens in football, you know. So I mean, it's really kind of just taking off from what we was doing last year and improving on it. You know, it was our first pre-season, it was all of our first pre-season with the gaffer, because obviously he come in kind of November time last year. So it's his first pre-season with us, what he's kind of nailed down his main priorities in the team and what he wants from us, and it was a good time for us to all kind of gel as a team as well, you know. So yeah, I don't think that much has changed. I just feel like when you ask anyone down there, there's a lot of good things we was doing in that kind of losing kind of period towards the back end of last year, but it just wasn't happening for us, you know.
Luke, what's realistic for this season in terms of aims and where we want to end up at the end of it?
I mean, it's tough. I mean, of course you're going to say promotion, because you'd be lying if you said you wouldn't. Everyone would want to get promoted. It goes without saying. So, of course, that's a target for us. But I think we're just taking it kind of week by week, game by month by month, you know. and we'll kind of deal with that at the end of kind of each month and kind of set ourselves another target. Of course, everyone wants to get promoted to the Premier League, but realistically, we'll just kind of keep doing what we're doing, which is well, and just taking it game by game, week by week, month by month, and we'll set ourselves targets probably every month or so when we kind of have the international break or whatever, and kind of go from there. But if we keep doing what we're doing, then we'll certainly be up there. I mean, the teams we've played to start the season, we certainly kind of play our form, promotional form, so we're in a good place, but we're not going ahead of ourselves. We're just kind of keeping our head down, working hard, learning, and just carrying on doing what we're doing.
And Luke, just from a personal point, is the Premier League your target where you want to be? And if so, how long do you have a target of where you want to, how long you want to get there? How many years?
What, me individually, is that?
Yeah, whether it's with QPR or you're obviously aiming to get there.
Well, of course you want to get there as soon as you can. It's not a long career, so the sooner you can get there, the better. It doesn't always work that way. It's really similar to what I've just kind of said with QPR as a club. Obviously, ideally, you want to get there as soon as you can. You want to kind of get there this year. But at the same time, you just kind of got to take care of what's happening now. Obviously, we've all had a good pre-season. Me myself, I feel fit, I feel good and ready to go. I'm just taking it game by game. I can keep on just kind of trying to put in the good performances game by game, month by month, and I like to think the rest will take care of itself.
Two quick questions for you, Luke. One, not so serious. Have you ever thought about international football?
I haven't thought about it.
Yeah, have you any links to Northern Ireland at all? Have you ever been there? Have you had Ulster Fry?
No.
Soda bread? Wheaten bread?
I'm
Anything?
Italian.
No?
Who wants to play for a proper country? Go on, Paul. Next question.
I'll put a good word in for you. If Tony Cascarino can play for the Republic, you can play for Northern Ireland. Trust me with that link. The other question is, has Mark Bircham ever tackled anyone in training like he tackled Kevin Gallen the other week?
Say that again, sorry?
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it. Bircham, in the Grenfell match, tackled Kevin Gallen head first into a very private area.
Yeah. I see. I did see that. Yeah, that was. Well, yeah.
He doesn't do that to you in training.
Does he tackle like that in training?
No. He doesn't do that. He doesn't do that in training. I think.
What's he like as a coach?
He's very good. I think we've got a good balance. I think all three of them there. You got the Gaffer, you got Fleming, you got Birch. It's a good kind of balance, and they've all got their inputs. And they have their individual sessions that we do, probably throughout the whole training session. So yeah, it's a good little thing we've kind of got ISO anyway that we've got going. They've got their balance as managers and coaches to have their put on their sessions, and then we kind of go on to other points that we need to do. So that's why I feel really, if you look throughout the whole of the team and the club, not just the players, it's actually the staff, even down to the physios and the masseuses, it's just got a real good balance and a good vibe down there, which everyone's kind of getting along and enjoying each other's company. Sometimes I talk about that isn't always the way. He's sometimes kind of himself in and out and not kind of really being too sociable. But down there, it is different. Let's go out for bites to eat. With each other as well. So yeah, that's really good. I feel like showing it on the pitch.
And Luke, is it right you're an FA Cup record holder? Have I got that right?
I am, yeah. I was, Gillingham a few years back now, 15.
You're the youngest player ever to play in the FA Cup. Is that right?
Yeah.
At 15 years old. Well,
yeah.
You've joined a club with a different kind of FA Cup record.
We haven't got one.
Hopefully you can help us improve that.
Well, I'll try to.
Luke, thank you very much for joining us. It's been really, really good to speak to you. We were just talking about the good feeling that seems to be around the club and the team. Thank you very much. And on behalf of all the fans, thank you for your great performances this season.
Thank you.
Good luck for the rest of the season.
And thanks for all you've done.
Thank you very much.
With your Cruyff turn on Saturday, big man. Really enjoyed that. More of the same tomorrow night.
Yeah, thank you very much. No, thanks so much for your call. Thank you.
Cheers,
mate. No worries. Cheers, mate.
You.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. We got there. And who called it? Who called it? David Beckham voice.
I was thinking that straight away.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Was that a David Beckham voice or was that a David Beckham voice?
It's not quite as high pitched.
Well, who else was it like? It wasn't like your Indian Scotsman from Manchester,
I
was
never
he?
said it was.
I don't think anyone in the world sounds like that. to be honest.
No. But you know what? What a nice fella. Do you notice every player we've got on has been so nice, so down to earth, and you kind of can see where we're going now, can't you? You can see the personalities that they're bringing in there. I like that.
Although, by virtue of the fact that they're nice guys, maybe the toe rags don't want to speak to us.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice that they actually
But
speak
you're
about
right.
the club
It
instead of
is.
Newcastle.
Yes, Joey Barton,
Oh.
6-year-old Joey Barton podcast reference there. If you're new, if you've only listened to us in the podcast for the last 4 years, I should explain what Chris is talking about. We had Joey Barton on in 2011. You should listen to it, Phil. We had Joey Barton on. He did come and join us in the studio, but he did talk about Newcastle for the majority of the 2
Rather a
hours.
lot. Do you remember I held the sign up saying this is a QPR podcast?
Yeah.
And he still didn't shut up.
Do you also remember I put my pencil in the air
go
and
on
you
about
got
it.
so upset about it? Anyway,
I didn't
right.
get upset, I just wanted to show him your arse.
So, we've got so much to still talk about, but we do need to wrap this podcast up. So we've done Loftus Road 100. Clint Hill. Clint Hill is back.
Did we get a fee for that?
Can only be a good thing that he's back.
He's back because of... There's some issues, isn't there, really, with centre-half. We've got a few
Grant
injuries, a
Hall.
few long terms. We've got Grant Hall. We got James Purchase out for a long time. I don't know how long Lynch is out for.
No idea. But what a player to bring in.
Yeah, not just for obviously him being able to fill in for players who are injured, but also just to have him around the place.
Oh, can you imagine, like, the experience that a man has, play left, back, play centre half, play up front, play in goal. He's just a genius.
So the biggest nanny state kind of ridiculous term that's come into football is under 23s is now the term, not reserves. You're not allowed to say reserves. Arguably, it would make a lot of players a lot better if they realised they were playing in reserves rather than being pumped up and told they're being played in the under 23s.
I miss the Avon combination.
But nevertheless, our under 23s today featured 38-year-old Clint Hill, and someone put a really funny tweet, Gaz, at Zuropar. These were the ages of Clint Hill's teammates in today's under 23 game when Clint was actually 23 years old. 6, 6, 4, 4, 4, 5, 10, 3, 4, 3.
Wow.
He could have played in it twice, Clint Hill, at 38 years old.
But what a man does come back and do that? How humble is that to come in, go through the motions again? It just shows you how much he wants to play for this football club, if you're asking me, which you're not, but I just thought I'd say it.
Ours End. Mm-hmm. This is the bit at the end of the show where we mention anything, everything that we haven't mentioned yet. Chris, you look like you're primed and ready to go.
Yeah, I know this podcast has been really positive, but you know what tomorrow is? It's a London derby, and we've got a terrible record with derbies. So I just hope, and I hate Millwall. I'd love to. I just can't stand them. They're not very good as well now, so we should beat them. And I hope, especially after the way we went out of the League Cup, I think we're owed a good performance against a London team.
Is that your Ours End?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you not like it?
That's good.
Thanks.
I don't really. I don't get the hate with the Millwall because I know loads of Millwall fans and they're sound. Obviously, you got a reputation. I
Is
get
this
that.
your Ours End? Can we
No.
clarify?
Carry on.
I've got a few Ours Ends, actually.
Who do you think you are, me?
I'm struggling to find my notes on my phone. But first of all, Rob Brennan has asked me to mention Barry. He's a QPR fan. He's from Ladbroke Grove, runs State of Mind Fitness in Hammersmith, trains around 10 pro boxers, really good bloke. Told him I'd see if I could get it mentioned on the pod. Well, there you go. Hi, Barry.
Good man.
There you go.
We should go down there one day and talk to him.
We should go down. The second one is somebody like a guy that I know called Golan dropped me a note the other day who I have had nothing to do with him to do with QPR. I kind of know him through work, and he said, I just wanted you to know I've got a QPR season ticket this year. He said, I went down there last year for one game. The team lost, but I knew these guys have the attitude and character of a team I can support, so I bought a season ticket this year.
Okay,
So there are people who are buying into it, Paul. The main thing I wanted to mention was I haven't been on myself since the Grenfell game. And, Paul, I have known you now for several years. You always talk at the fans' forums and on the podcast about the club having a soul and being engaged with its community. And I think what the club have done over Grenfell and the role that they have played is a leadership role in the local community.
Absolutely.
You cannot fault it.
I wouldn't even try.
It's absolutely fantastic and meaningful what they've done. They've clearly raised several £100,000 from doing it. Right from Tony Fernandez through to Les, Ian Taylor, his team, all the other guys. It's just been absolutely outstanding. And if we're talking about a club getting its soul back, of course, it was for a very important cause, and it's really helped the local community. But I think through that, it's helped a lot of QPR fans re-engage with the club as well. And I just wanted to throw my 2 pennies worth in. The only other thing I would say is I've spoken to a lot of people about it, and I always ask them, have you donated? Did you donate if you didn't go? A few of them say, I haven't quite got around to it yet. So if you haven't quite got around to it yet, get your phone now. Whilst I call this out, grab your phone, open up your text messages, Grenfell, that's all you have to spell out, to 70007. And I believe if you send that text, it's £3 towards the fund. So do that, and that is me done for R's End.
Changes lives.
Phil, your R's End.
I don't particularly have one, to be honest.
Okay, Finny.
Where do you park at Middlesbrough for the QPR?
Oh, yeah,
fans?
give us a little preview of Middlesbrough for Saturday.
Oh, God.
We haven't done predictions yet, but anyway, do this anyway.
We'll do predictions at the end, but tell us what we can expect.
I think it's going to be a difficult game, certainly for QPR, but certainly not one that I'd be ruling them out of. It's been a decent start for Middlesbrough so far this season, but they certainly haven't been tearing up any trees so far. They haven't been as good as what many pundits would have you believe, with them running away with the league like they always tend to predict with someone each season. They've got lots of good players. A lot of them new into the club, so they haven't really gelled just yet. So it could be quite an ideal time to play them. And knowing the fans at the Riverside as well, they are a supportive bunch. But if QPR make it difficult for them and they get in their faces, then there's every potential that the fans they won't exactly turn, but they'll certainly make it a much more hostile atmosphere. And that could be where, from a QPR point of view, that's where they could come out on top.
Very good. Finny, finish us off.
Well, the R's are... Thank you for that, David. It's an image in my head will never get out. Red, my R's then is quickly, twofold, maybe 3, don't know. But quickly, Anthony Ryan, I've just been texted by his dad, Tony, is in recovery now and has now been moved out of intensive care. So that is fantastic. So we've been following that for a while on the podcast, and I'm really pleased with that. And hopefully when Anthony's better, he can come actually on the podcast and we'll have a good old yarn with him. Secondly, going back to what you said about Grenfell, yeah, proud. Just proud of everything they did, proud of the atmosphere. We did the podcast, as you know, and it was really hard because, I grew up around there, even though I've got a dodgy accent, and I know how much it hurt the people around there. And listen to Andy Evans, who had family worried about people, and the boxing club, and the soccer schools losing pupils and stuff. It brought it all home to us that this isn't a million miles away, it's a mile and a half away, or whatever it is. And it was beyond sad, and it was never about the money, it was about awareness. And I think the club not only put themselves across really well, how that podcast came about, just so people know, was just an off the cuff remark I made to Ian, and just said, like, I'd like to get the QPR story out because not many people know what you're doing. And it was like, just come down and chat to us. It was very formal, very open, and I think the club put themselves across well. And I'm so proud of them for what they did, because it's very easy for people to say that you had the wage bill, don't win, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, you did this wrong. It doesn't matter now. Rangers have shown it's got a heart, it's got a passion, and the community is still very much a part of what we do, and I'm so proud of them for that. My last R's End of the show is everyone who is going to go to Rangers has got to do something a little bit different. And that is, like when you go down to Rangers and like we start off in Q block and then it ends up in R block and all this sort of thing. We need to get that. There's a bit on Saturday where the ground did come on yours as one, and the hairs in the back of your neck were just standing up. We need that 90 minutes, guys. We need to seriously... Tomorrow night it's going to be really difficult because they're up front, they hate us, they don't like us because of Holloway and everything else. We need to... Did you know what I'm talking about? Saturday?
100%, definitely heard
it. It was just... it was brilliant. And it just reminded me of this beautiful football club we have that can make so much noise, that is so close to the pitch. let's not waste it. Let's give everything tomorrow night and every home game and just make that place so noisy, because there's nothing like a noisy Loftus Road. And I was so proud of the way the fans were on Saturday against noisy away support. And stop doing hand signs at me. It's very off-putting, and it makes you wonder what you're really thinking. And also, on my last hour's end, one last thing. We need to go back to the live podcast after we got tanked by Norwich and listen to what Mark was saying on the live podcast about what the players are looking at, who they want to bring in. Him and Ian got a lot of flack in the summer, and Les, to be fair, for the players that come in, the lack of activity in the transfer market. And I think it is only fair that people go back to that podcast, have a listen, and then they can now see what Mark Bircham was actually saying. And it took a lot of balls and guts for him to come to that podcast, because people I would have thought would have been after his blood. He came down, he faced it up, and everything so far, this far, he said in that podcast has been more or less true. So again, we're taking credit.
Predictions for Millwall, however they pronounce it, and
I think it's
Middlesbrough.
Millwall.
Chris?
I'll say...
I don't know why we do this bit, because we never review it.
No,
We
But
never
we'll
get
do
it
it
right.
anyway.
I'll say we'll
I've got it right once, I think.
We'll get 4 points. Being positive, I think it would be good to get something at Borough, because our home form's been perfect.
both games.
We've won all our games there, but away from home we haven't quite cracked it yet. So to get a win there would be good.
Paul?
Wow. I would love us to give a good account of ourselves tomorrow night, because we're going to get it in the air because of Holloway's association with them. He did get them relegated. I fully get why they don't like him, but it'd be so nice to win in the derby and keep
They absolutely hate him. I used to work with someone who supports Millwall, and that's
So your
part of the reason I
prediction,
left.
Well, my Millwall friends absolutely loathe him to death. But, say so far. I think we'll win 2-1 against Millwall, and I think we'll beat Borough 2-1. Because
Phil?
they haven't come up against a side with Luke Freeman in it yet.
Phil?
Yeah, I think tomorrow night's going to be really tough, because not only the Millwall fans, we know that they're going to make it as hostile an atmosphere as possible, but as well as that, I think the team, they're such a physical team, they're going to be out there to try and disrupt QPR's play, and I think in contrast to other games so far this season, it's going to be up to QPR to go out and play. So I think it's going to be difficult, but I reckon QPR will edge that one 2-1. As for the game against Middlesbrough, I think that could be one where QPR pull off an upset potentially. Maybe a 1-0 to QPR, maybe a 1-1, but I think they'll certainly do a job up there.
I'm with Chris. I think 4 points. I think 2-0 tomorrow, maybe 0-0 Saturday. Be happy with 4 points.
Is it nice to be back, Dave?
It's very nice to be back.
Nice to be back.
You've made it so
Very
welcoming.
nice, yeah.
Thank you very much for listening. I hope you've stayed with us through this podcast.
And
Sorry
thank you,
about-
Paul, for talking long enough for the rain to stop.
Thank
For
you,
the
Paul,
journey
for
home.
talking long enough for the rain to stop. Sorry for the rain. Sorry for the delay on Luke Freeman. What else are we sorry for?
Me?
Paul Finney. Thank you for listening. This has been Open All Ours.
QPR, Brisbane Rangers are on the up and up. QPR.